Hi, this is Kurt Barone, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Okay, I love this one. I got to tell you, I think this was a great one. This manslaughter charge.
It's scary.
Yeah, although I will say there's one thing I was a little confused, which I will ask you to clarify. But the headline from your blog, which is that a Pennsylvania dispatcher is facing criminal manslaughter charges for not promptly dispatching EMS. And frankly, here's what happens. He gets a call, and there's a lot of different PSAPs, and I presume this is not a big county, or maybe it is, but I don't know much about Greene County, PA. But the dispatcher receives a call. Well, I'll go back up one. This individual receives a call from a family member saying, hey, mom's not doing well, going downhill, something's wrong. That family member then calls 911, says, I'm headed over to the house and mom's not doing well. And if you believe it, and look, this is presumably all recorded, so there shouldn't be a lot in dispute if there's all recordings. But apparently she speaks to 911 for about 4 to 5 minutes on the phone. And everybody on our, on the video blog here knows in the first couple of seconds, they're figuring out who to dispatch and are dispatching the appropriate agency, right, as they're talking. But 4 to 5 minutes about whether apparently the individual would agree to be transported, which I've never heard that questioning before, ever. Do you think she'll want to go to the hospital if we go see her?
As I read it, I was thinking, maybe if we got a real sharp dispatcher and they've got like a mass trauma going on already, and they're really trying to be cautious with the allocation of resources, maybe those types of questions might fit in. Considering, here in Exeter, we're 20 minutes for a mutual aid company to come in. Or maybe longer. It depends on where the mutual aid company is coming from. So, it may make sense under certain circumstances, but according to the lawsuit, everybody was in. There were no other runs. So
they were waiting, ready to respond.
That excuse was gone.
Right. So apparently the dispatcher then says, listen, call back once you arrive and you confirm she wants to be transported. Again, if true, an insane, right? There's nowhere in EMD that it says, do you think you want to go? I mean, to me, this is implied consent. But nonetheless,
there's another aspect to this. Is she told him on the phone that they did not have cell reception at the house. She was on her cell phone talking to him, and she said, we don't have cell reception. I need to do it now before I get to the house. I don't know if the house had landline, and if the house had landline, I guess they could have called from there.
Right. But can you imagine? I mean, under this way of, and I'll keep continuing the facts, but under this way of thinking, anybody who calls third party, like calling from Florida, hey, my mom's not answering the phone. I mean, how many, did that
check on the well-being? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, so the patient, who's only 54, died of internal bleeding the following day. So this is serious. Now there's also a civil lawsuit, right? So on one side, he's facing criminal charges under state law. And if this is true, it doesn't look good, because I read the components of the statute as you post them, and he's in trouble. But there's also a civil lawsuit where they're seeking money, same basic facts, but apparently they start using quotes from the dispatcher, like he would be using the ambulance would be a waste of resources. And that is an it's in quotes. So if that's a quote, there's a lot of problems here. So I think there are some defenses, however, and let's talk a little bit about, because everyone's saying, oh, the county's going to lose a lot of money. Maybe, maybe not, right? So I didn't really look at all the complaints to see everything they could have alleged: negligent supervision, negligent training, vicarious liability, which we could talk about. And then again, of course, it's a municipality. So what's their immunity? And I don't know what the immunities are in PA. Normally dispatchers may have an immunity, but I think immunity saying we're not sending anybody is a little more beyond discretionary. But
yeah, well, they went further and alleged due process violations. So I think what they realized was Pennsylvania has some strong statutory and sovereign immunity, and they're going to try to get around that by alleging a denial of due process, deprivation of life without due process, due to deliberate indifference.
Refusal to provide public
Yeah, but it's
services.
the term is deliberate indifference. So that the dispatcher was deliberately indifferent. Now, I think the biggest defense they're going to have has to do with causation and linking the 10-minute delay or whatever it might have been, linking that delay to the death. Certainly there's some liability, civil liability. Certainly there may be reckless endangerment and other criminal charges also. But in terms of the homicide and in terms of wrongful death or deprivation of life, they're going to have to show that 10 minutes made a difference.
Yeah. And I'd be alleging, frankly, and I don't know their laws, but I'd be talking about negligent infliction upon me, the 911 caller, saying, no, we're not going to go to your mother. We're not going to help her. I think that's where I really hang a big hat, because it's a lot of flexibility. It is clearly outrageous conduct for a dispatcher to say, no, we're not going to send somebody. And like you said, there are no extraneous circumstances to justify not sending an ambulance. But can you imagine being a kid and saying, your mother, I'm sorry, we're not going to send anyone to help her, basically, until you get there and tell us if she wants to go? Come on.
Well, one of the big cases, I forget where it was, but it was a young child, and the dispatcher convinced himself or herself that the child was just acting on their own and that the mom really wasn't sick. And the dispatcher saying, well, put your mom on the phone. And the kid is saying,
right,
the mom's she's unconscious. Well, put the phone up to her ear. So he puts the phone, and they say, well, we're not sending anybody. And she died. The mom died. So another example. And dispatching is tough. There's no doubt. I think very, very psychologically stressing, and people get burnt out in doing it. And whether that was a factor here, who knows? But
well, and here's the interesting thing. You raise a great point. Let's just throw this out. The criminal defense of this person may very well come down to, listen, I was overworked, they put me on overtime, I'm making all this up. But the employee facing criminal charges is put in the position of having to attack their employer, that I was stressed out, or I had PTSD, or I'm pleading temporary
insanity. They knew or should have known.
Yeah, I mean, or I'm a horrible dispatcher, they shouldn't let me do this. Anyway,
you were negligent for hiring me.
You should have known I was confident.